Hello, everyone out there. Welcome, greetings, and salutations to you here on this simmering edition of the Fearless Schools podcast, where we hit the mighty podcast power switch and shine our inquisitive and hopeful light on the glorious tapestry of all things education. Wow! All right, that sounds a wee bit fancy. Perhaps, listen, we don't want to get it twisted, as my kids at the school say. We're here to get the work done, not get all fancy. We're going to roll back our sleeves, get some sweat on our brow, and uncover the latest and greatest for you, our dear listening audience. And of course, all of those efforts are brought to you by the educational consortium known as Creative Leadership Solutions. They are creative leaders, and you know what they've got? They got solutions. It's true. All right, got to check them out, www.creativeleadership.net, and you won't be disappointed. And I'm also happy to bring to the stage the always super cool Director of Professional Learning for CLS, Dr. Ann McCarty. How's it going, Dr. Ann?
Drew, it's going great. And you know what? New face for me. New person, new face, new things. Super excited. I can't wait.
Go. You know what? I can't wait either. I've known this person and their face for a little bit, but it's been a while since we've checked in. So yes, our special guest is here. I can't wait to talk to her. As I said, I've known our esteemed guest for a little while, and there are many admirable attributes that she brings to the table, but I want to go ahead and highlight a couple that just ring my bell. First of all, she's actively in the schoolhouse supporting students as a dean of students at a middle school in Minnesota. So I know that she's going to bring the real to the podcast today. And you know what else she has? I'm not making this up, guys. Every darn time I've seen her present, whether it's near or far or recent or way back in the day, she has an unstoppable energy that just electrifies a room. It's true. So tip of the cap to that. It's amazing. So let's hear a little bit more about today's guest. This wonderful person builds on the lessons learned and techniques developed as a middle-level social studies teacher since 1991. And as a result, she is in national demand as a keynote speaker and workshop facilitator. At home in her Twin Cities, Minnesota metropolitan area school district, she augments, wow, her classroom role with a position, as I said, as her school's dean of students, which I'm sure is exciting. And no fun stories just from that role itself. She's also served in various leadership and committee positions, including team leader, a member of the equity and literacy teams, and a member of the restorative culture team. She's the founder and coordinator of a highly successful after-school program called Students on Academic Rise, SOAR, developed to address the achievement gap. Her first book, SOAR, a handbook for closing the achievement gap, is a manual for helping other school districts replicate this program that transports students to a higher academic performance, self-awareness, self-esteem, and individual responsibility. She is also the author of If You Can't Manage Them, You Can't Teach Them, and she just completed and released her third exciting book, The Teacher's Game Plan, Winning with Students from Day One. Not day two, day one. Because of all that, and because of all that amazing work in the schoolhouse and beyond, she's got those accolades, as they say. Her honors include semifinalist for Minnesota Teacher of the Year in 2004, one of 9 Fox Top Teachers of the Year, also 2009, and Minnesota Middle Level Educator of the Year in 2012. But she's not resting on her laurels. She's making great change happen every single day. What honor to be here with her today. It's the one and only Kim Campbell. How's it going, Kim?
Oh my gosh. Wow. That was quite, gee, many crickets. I'm sorry you had to read all that.
Listen, wow. I've been practicing, got my words all lined up.
You did great. I'm great. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're excited for you to be here and take time out of your busy life to join us on the Fearless Schools podcast. Listen, to get us warmed up, since you've fed our souls and our interests and our spirits already, we want to talk about food. So where do you go in times of educational challenge or triumph when it comes to food and sustenance?
Okay, you guys are gonna freak out when I tell you this. Anybody I say this to, they're just like, what in the world? Like, okay, they're like, come on, Kim, step it up a notch. But I love Outback, the Outback Steakhouse. Okay. Listen, when I travel as a consultant, I'm always searching out for an Outback. And it's so delicious. This is what I have. I have a filet mignon, a salad, small bowl of potato soup, and broccoli extra steamed. And then I top it off with a half Sprite, half orange juice, lots of ice. And that's my go-to. And we have an Outback here in Minneapolis. We've got like one. So I'm hitting
So
it up.
there you go. And probably based on this podcast and this video, your Outback's going to be pouring you in with all kinds of
I
coupons.
mean, I feel sponsorship coming on, Kim.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Hashtag Outback.
There you go. No,
So here's my thing with Outback salads, those croutons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Right?
and the bread. How about the bread?
The bread, yes, the bread.
Butter on every piece.
Yes, exactly. I like to have some bread with my butter. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And explain it where now the Sprite and orange juice concoction, has that been a Kim Campbell for life type of thing, or is that like something that you stumbled upon as an adult? Like, ooh, where'd this come from?
Yeah, that was stumbled on as an adult because here's the deal. I can't really drink caffeine because if I drink caffeine, I'm like a ping pong ball out of control. So when I'm traveling or whatever, I want something to drink and it's good. Yeah, no caffeine.
I got to try that Sprite and the OJ.
I know. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And what's interesting is even so you have that little bit of whimsy with the beverage, but everything else is you know exactly what you want off the Outback menu. Like you never deviate from that.
No.
So
never.
let's connect the dots here. So how does consistency how does that consistency play over into your work as a dean of students? Ta-da.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I am a firm believer that consistency is everything. I mean, and I think after what we learned after the pandemic, right, was that we thought all the kids were going to come back and be just so excited to be with us and their friends. And it was like whack-a-mole. I was I mean, it was absolutely nuts. And I think schools made a big mistake, including mine, of not being very consistent and really being like, nope, this is how it's going to be. And so I know that for us at my school right now, we're leaning a lot into consistency, and really talking to our teachers about that. And I'm not going to go into detail. I mean, I can, but we've really done some things around being consistent that I think schools really need to start taking a look at. And one of those is we have to look at our policies. I know that I bet if we were to ask every teacher in our buildings, like name the 12 policies that are in the handbook, they'd probably be able to name one or two. And so when we have these policies, but we're not consistent, then that's when we start to see a breakdown. And we really went at it in which we decided to focus on like one or two major policies we were going to really try to get 80% of our staff to enforce. And the first one that, years ago was coming for the cell phone. And now we have, a contest going on amongst our teachers on who can collect the most phones, right? So, I mean, consistency is critical. Like it is the bread and butter of a school.
It is.
I mean, it truly is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like, it's interesting because you talk about the consistency there and with policies. So it's just like when you go out into the world and look for different Outbacks, you hope and because there is consistency on the menu, there's consistency in the practices of putting those meals together, that you have something you can count on. So in lots of ways, it's not just being consistent within your school, but it's also about school to school and trying to be as consistent as possible too, right?
Right.
When that broccoli maybe gets oversteamed, you got a problem.
Listen, no, my broccoli can't get ever oversteamed. Oh. And I want you all to know that I will send it back if it's crunchy. I'm not doing crunchy broccoli.
No.
So that's important.
It is.
I'm just saying.
Kim's holding strong on that.
I am. I don't like crunchy leadership. Broccoli.
No.
Yeah, thank you, Ann.
There you go. And Outback, if you're listening, and I know you are, I hope you heard that loud and clear. Kim Campbell doesn't do crunchy broccoli.
No,
we're not doing mushy in this leadership.
No, we're not.
I'm glad we got that cleared up at the jump, because I didn't want that to be some hidden subtext later on. So speaking of very critical statements and important stuff. So who was Kim Campbell as a student? Your origin story. You're a superhero. You fly around all over the country, all over the world, trying to help people. So you got your cape on. What's your origin story? Who were you as a student, and who helped you, perhaps? All that kind of good stuff.
Well, in a nutshell, I was definitely an athlete. That kept me in school.
Yeah.
I
What was
was
your
a
sport?
naughty kid. I played everything and anything, but basketball was my love. And that's why this new book that I
Mm,
wrote is all relates to sports.
gotcha.
Because when I went into teaching, I wanted to be the next Pat Summitt, like the
Okay.
University of Tennessee
Yeah,
head
yeah.
basketball coach. But it just I didn't like it. But anyway, as far as I can tell you more about that later, but
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
yeah.
as me as a student, I was a kid that, I was relationship focused. If you connected with me, I would do what you wanted to do. I was pretty strong-willed, so I could be naughty. Um, I'll never forget. Okay, you're probably way too young, but back in the day when it was like they had these big old like windows with the big old like curtains with the big string on them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, yeah. And you guys remember the painter pants? They're coming
Mm-hmm.
back. Remember the little hook on the pants?
I
So I
think
was
so.
sitting behind this guy and I was bored. And so this string from this big old curtain was hanging down. And I thought, I'm going to see if I can get that hooked on his pants. And
Yeah.
by God, I did. And I got it hooked on his pants and tied pretty tight. And the bell rang and he shot out of his desk. And that entire thing came flying down. Let's just say I sat in the front and had lunch detention for like 3 weeks. But,
Now, did anything else come down besides the curtain?
no, just the curtain, thank
Okay,
God.
so
Thank
his
God.
pants were intact. Okay,
No,
I was gonna say they pulled a full Campbell on him. All right,
yeah. So I was a naughty kid.
so you're
That's
not a
why
kid.
me being a dean is
Mhm.
like, I'm always like, oh yeah, I see what you're up to.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, I can see what's happening next. So
Gotcha.
But I see that as creativity too, Kim. I mean,
yeah.
you were curious, right? So what happens if I tie this guy up
Right.
to the curtain?
You were just doing a scientific, kind of
Right.
experiment with a hypothesis.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess that was kind of begs the question that you kind of got into, like how does that precocious start as a student inform your work now? If you're working with
Oh
students
my
as a dean of
goodness.
students and all that kind of stuff, how does that help you do your work?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, right, is um, when I was a teacher, I learned very quickly, like all of us do, that we have to build strong relationships with kids and hold them accountable. And the piece I think we forget too many times is have some fun with the kids.
Mm,
And that really became, and then when Ann, you had said about, creativity, I mean, I was teaching before we had, you know, AI producing a lesson. And I loved that, that type of fun stuff. So yeah, that transferred over really quick. And I think too, I didn't have a lot of people in my life, personal life, that was holding me accountable. And so when I look at our kids today, I'm like, oh, no, no, no. You need to be held accountable. You need structure. You need consistency. You need the Outback. I mean, I'm
there,
just saying that. I want Outback to like sponsor me now. I know what I'm doing here.
Hey,
right there
we're
you go.
still working on a sponsorship of Squirt for Katie Powell, so we'll add
Yeah,
Outback to the collection here.
right.
I
If
love
we
it.
ever
I love
did
it.
a podcast with both of you guys, that would be like sponsorship heaven. So, was there
Yeah.
anybody, and especially since I know middle school is something that you gravitate towards, was there
Mm.
someone in that educational space, a teacher, administrator, staff member who found you early on that like said to you, "Oh, I got you. I see what you're doing."
Hmm. Yeah, I would probably say my high school basketball coach. You
Cool,
know,
cool.
he was Coach Sims, and he was kind of like a father figure. I had lost my father when I was 12.
Mm,
And so there was a lot of that stuff happening.
yeah,
But yeah, he kind of just, you know, helped me see that what's possible and, motivated me,
that's cool.
kept me in
That's cool.
school because I was naughty. I mean, I could have gone in a whole different direction.
There you go.
So so Kim, here's and this is going to be hard for you to pinpoint, but for our listeners, you self-identify as a naughty kid, which I love that. Um, but something that coach did or something that coach said, how could our listeners replicate that to reach that that student who's presenting the challenge? What's the takeaway for our listeners there? Because it worked for you.
Yeah. So he was a guy, right, that had a great sense of humor, which I really connected with. And he was also a guy that would always talk to me about the power that I had. We all know that there are certain kids that carry this charisma and carry this influence, and trying to figure out how to help guide them. And he always used to say to me, who do you really want to be? Who do you really want to be? 10, 20 years from now, who do you really want to be? And he said, you have what it takes. He said, but I'm worried that you might use it in the wrong way. And that really was powerful for me. I use it with kids today. Who do you want to be?
Mhm.
What's your place? What et cetera, et cetera. So that really moved me to,
Yeah.
and the love of the game. That was part of it too.
Yeah, and that he took the time to have those conversations, because he could have easily, as a coach, start practice, in practice, blow the whistle, this kind of stuff like that. But to take the time to actually pull you aside and have conversations that are not connected to basketball so much, that really means something. And, the adverb in his question, who do you really want to be? I wonder how
Hmm.
often we should ask that of students and of ourselves, and of our teachers.
Right.
Like, who do you really want to be? Um, that's really cool. And speaking of basketball and the
Yeah.
connection to your work, in your newest book, The Teacher's Game Plan, you explore that intersection, right? The intersection of basketball and education. So let's dig in a little bit. So what are a couple of critical points and strategies that teachers and leaders should know from that intersection? What are some things that they could even start doing tomorrow?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, what happened when I was going to be this big primetime coach, what I realized very quickly was that I was someone who saw that coaching was one avenue to life,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that it was like I didn't have the killer instinct. Doesn't mean that others don't, but everything was about life. And that's how I approach teaching, meaning that we have to look at the whole child. I don't when I go out and speak, I don't talk about like I teach social studies or I teach math. I teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when we teach kids, that means we teach everything that comes with it. The mood swings they're having, when they're having an absolute meltdown that's inappropriate, and holding kids accountable, and those types of things. And so strategies that I always used, some real ones, and they're really basic, was I started greeting kids at the door years before that was even proved that it was awesome. But then I also would have a kid join me at the door with me, because we know we have a population of kids that no one even speaks to. So he or she may hand out papers, or they might just stand with me and we chit chat. Okay. The second thing I did is I always made sure that we started class with hi team, and they would call it back at me. And eventually a kid is going to say to me, why do you call us a team? Like, can we call you coach? And that would open the door for me to talk about how we're all in this together, how some of you are not going to, want to be with the team, and how we have to work together as a group. So I'd start with that. And then I would go right into real quickly, who's got something to tell me? What'd you do last night? How are we doing? See, I'm a believer, right, that relationships don't just happen. We have to be deliberate in building them, right? And so those were little things that I would do that coaches do all the time. I mean, that's what separates a great team from a good one, is when they build that chemistry within that team. And so that's kind of how, what I would do. And I always had fun with the kids, told them stories. Um, I do things like in the middle of my presentation, a picture of me when I was 5 will pop up, and the kids will all scream, my God, what happened to you? Like, yeah, yeah.
You know, like super clear takeaways. What I love about Kim, what you're describing, John Hattie, when he talks about teacher student relationships, it's not about being friends with the students,
Correct.
it's about agency, respect, including, belonging, and all of those strategies. Listeners, I hope you caught all of them, because that was a solid 4 strategies to create that teacher student relationship and setting the stage for learning. I love that. And you're like, I did it before anybody was breathing, even before the effect size came in. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
for our
Yeah.
yeah.
listeners, if you missed those couple of things, greet students at the door, bring in the kid who doesn't talk to other kids and
Yep.
have them greet.
Yep.
Coaching as a metaphor in the team and bring everybody along. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying that. I think that's so great. I think I just want to share just a quick story, and it's in my book as well, but it's a powerful story that I share with teachers all the time. And I had a girl, and she comes from her background is really, really rough and really, really tough. But we connected. And part of the reason we connected was because I held her accountable. And there was a situation where we suspected that she might be doing something in the bathroom that was inappropriate, vaping or smoking weed or something like that. And I, brought her into my office and I said, well, we're gonna do a search. And she got really, 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 really mad at me. And matter of fact, she wouldn't talk to me for almost 4 weeks, which was unheard of, right? Did I feel bad? Of course I did. I'm a human. I'm gonna feel bad. But finally, she came into my office out of nowhere. Obviously, she was done being mad. And what I said to her, I said, tell me what went on there. And she said, well, I thought we were close enough that you would cover for me, or that you wouldn't search me, or you wouldn't hold me accountable. And I remember what I said to her. And I said, I care enough about you to hold you accountable, and I will hold you accountable. And if that's not the type of relationship you want to have, then I'm sorry. I'm not your friend. I'm an adult that cares for you, and I will hold you accountable. And I think many of our teachers need to hear that. Like, no, you're not friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hold them accountable. So
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah. No, and if I had $1 for every time I had a conversation like that with students in my office, the same thing. On the one hand, you can fill out a form, disciplinary form on a kid, but it's so much more important to form a relationship. And like you said, it doesn't mean that you're being all friendly and I mean, you could draw a line in the sand and not use a sharp stick. It's okay. They need to know I'm built to care. I'm going to care about you no matter what you try to do. It's going to happen. So so I have a yes, and I have a yes and then I have a contrary that I want to see you tackle this one. So that what I love about like how you greeted your class with high team, and then you also developed individual relationships, is that one, you're honoring the individual and making the individual student feel like a major character in the story of school instead of a minor character. And then you're also making them feel like they're a part of a cast of characters and like part of a movement, a group, instead of like, yes, you're important individually, but we're a team. So I think that is such a powerful thing to me, is that school is a narrative and students need to see themselves as part of that narrative. And I think that's great advice for all of us. So with the whole child, because I've heard this rhetoric in my world as well, where I am. So somebody comes to you, maybe it's someone at another office somewhere else in the school district that says, yeah, all this whole child stuff is nice and everything, but how does it translate to test scores and test preparation? How are you getting them ready for that state test? How would you, one, have you ever heard that? And two, how do you deal with that opinion when it comes to your desk?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I do have to say that in Minnesota, my subject area that I taught in, social studies, was not a tested area. Okay, so answering that question is a little more challenging for me.
Gotcha.
But I do believe that my mantra has always been that test, and I know that it's different all over the country. So I'm not trying to be like flippant with the answer, but I believe these tests we take are just one snapshot of a child's life story. And so I also believe that when you connect with kids and teach the whole child and have them understand all these things that they're going to need as they get older, right? They will perform better for you on those tests. When you have kids that they know that you care for them and that they want to work hard for you. I mean, we know the research says, we see it all the time, but they'll do better on those tests if you take the time to connect with them and know that they care. But I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm not a test. I'm just not. And I never will be. And I think it's a billion-dollar business that puts a lot of stress on teachers and schools that's unnecessary. So sorry.
No. Don't apologize for that, because I think it runs parallel tracks to how you work with students, that you're holding students accountable, but comes from a place of care. So if we are going to do tests and assessments, and hold people accountable for however those it should scores or whatever, it should be from a place of care as well. You could do a lot of things with a measuring stick. You can measure and calibrate and check the wellness of something, or you can beat people with it. And I'm not in the game of beating people with sticks or anything. So there you go. I feel like I'm being rather violent in this episode. I apologize.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm a little worried, Drew, about the first the stick in the sand, and now we're going to like what's up with the sticks tonight?
Listen, what can I say?
Okay.
There's some. I'm dealing with some
He's
issues.
been cooped up because of the weather.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
that is true. Well, okay. So what you said. Okay, I do want to dig into into the granular words that you just used. That it's a snapshot of a student's life story.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something for us to remember. That yes, we're seeing students for their educational lives in the 3 years that we see them in middle school, or the 4 years in high school. But a life story is somebody's full matriculation from cradle to beyond. So maybe, is that something that we need to dig into more? Just remembering that this is someone's life that we're dealing with. Anyways. Oh boy. Listen, speaking of educational innovations and wonderment, what?
Pivot.
Hands at 2 and 10. What educational innovation or instructional advancement or challenge is particularly interesting to you right now? Anything that's raising an eyebrow, or particularly maybe 2 eyebrows? Ooh. So.
Yeah, when I saw that question, I was really intrigued by it, and then I thought I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction.
Yes.
I'm going to go I don't know if we want to call this innovation. I guess you could, but I am really, really fired up about the access of technology that kids have access to. And I am extremely concerned on what I have seen and what I have witnessed with our children in regards to smartphones. Schools, I think, are finally starting to figure it out. We still need to figure it out with our parents. Our children, as you know, Drew, no attention span, the drama that comes in for administrators because all those things. So when you ask me that question, there are 2 things. One is when I retire, which will be soon, I think, hopefully, maybe 2 or 3 years, I'm going to start a grassroots movement. I'm coming for schools. We don't need to hand a kid an iPad and a smartphone and say, here, take them both home, and think a kid is going to sit there and do his homework and not be distracted by YouTube. Okay. So when I think about innovation, what we're seeing at my school, and I'm really proud, is we have a group of science teachers right now. Do you guys remember back in the day when they did the interactive notebooks?
Yes.
That's where they're pivoting back there. And so that when I walk into the class, the 6th graders are like, Miss Campbell, look at my interactive notebook. Look at my pictures. Look what and all the latest research about writing versus typing. I mean, everything is pointing to, again, I'm going to say it and I apologize, is technology companies sold us a bill of goods that this was going to change education overnight. And look what it's done to many of our children. So I'm not about getting rid of it. I'm about balance.
Yeah.
I'm about we don't need to take any of this stuff home. So I want to see teachers pivoting back to more the number of parents, I don't know about you, Drew, but the number of parents I'm talking to is I was talking to a parent today and she was like, why did nobody ask me if I wanted my kid to have this iPad? I want my kid to have everything on paper and pencil. I don't want that iPad home anymore.
Wow.
I had parents that gave them back.
Yeah.
We don't, it's interesting. I think, Kim, I hear you saying simplicity is the new innovation.
Right. Yes. God, Anne, you should be on this side. Hey. Whoa. That was good. And you didn't even use any sticks or anything to say, I'm gonna
No,
I was going to say I'm on fire, but that would be about sticks.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Well, it's interesting as I work with, teachers across the United States, and we're talking about standards, and we're talking about teacher clarity, and we're talking about success criteria, and they're like, are we kind of like going back? And I'm like, yeah, the things that are good are still really good.
That's it. That's
Yep.
it.
So simplifying what we're doing, being really clear about it, that is the new innovation.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Quiet
Yep.
is the new loud. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was good
No,
too, Drew.
'cause
Jeez, why am I on this side?
Well, so you mentioned this a little bit too earlier. You mentioned AI. You dipped your toe in that water just a little bit when you were talking about teachers creating lesson plans, and you were like, you enjoy the creative aspect of making plans. Do you see that also as something that's raising a couple of eyebrows? Like, ooh, I don't know if teachers are being over reliant on AI. Do you see anything there, or is that like I'm staying out of that one?
Yeah, no, I think your veteran teachers that are in their, 30s, 40s, I think they're still using that creativity that they have. I think the young teachers coming in are much more equipped with AI. But all of us know, right, is that our children really don't know how to use the technology.
Mm,
They really don't. They don't. I mean, if we're truly want to help kids advance with technology, we need to be teaching them keyboarding classes. We need to be teaching them how to code.
mm-hmm.
We don't need to hand them an iPad and say, here, let's have you bounce back and forth between a YouTube clip and your science reading, right? Like, so I think it all depends on who's comfortable with it. But boy, that'll be interesting to watch what happens, but I won't be there much longer.
But your legacy and the reverberations and echoes of your presence will live on, Kim.
Thank you, Drew, and I will carry a stick.
There you
But
go.
And
the Outback order will never change, though. So your picture's
never,
up somewhere in all the
Yes.
Outbacks across
In
the
the
United States.
never.
on the
Here's what to give her
educational.
when she walks in.
There you go. On the educational menu, you are the steamed broccoli that keeps us going. So
That's right.
to kind of wrap up just everything, Kim Campbell, your
Yeah.
superpowers are evident, I think. But if you had to select one of your superpowers that you think helps you soar, not like your book, SOAR, that is like your book. So
like
what's
the
a superpower that helps you soar in your work? What keeps you going?
I love that question.
Thank
I'd
you.
say two things. You're welcome. I'd say two things. One are my colleagues. We have a team, of social workers and counselors, and that work closely together, and we have fun. Like we laugh. We laugh at some of the silly things that middle school kids, do or say. And the second one is I don't lose my sense of humor very often. Like kids crack me up. I mean, crack me up. Listen, I got to tell you what happened to me the other day. Just one thing, and then I
All
promise.
right. No, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I have this girl, and she can just be really tough. And every day, fourth block, I get a call to go down to this room. So I go down to the room, and I'm just like anybody else. I'm tired. I'm tired of this situation, and I walk into the room, and she's not sitting where she's supposed to sit. And so I walk in, and I said, "You have 10 seconds to get in your right seat." And then I was thinking, what am I going to do if she doesn't get in her right seat?
Mm-hmm.
But she does. She goes and gets in her right seat. I was so proud of her. And so I looked at her and I just said, hey, I'm so proud of you. Way to go. Good job. And I've never had this in 35 years. The girl looks at me and she does this. She, and I and I didn't know what to do. So I just said, see you later.
Anyway.
I love it.
But
So the moral of our story for our listeners here is we have to find humor. This is always my job, Kim. We have to find humor in our daily interactions, right?
We sure do.
And we can't take ourselves too seriously. And especially for those of us who've worked in the middle, if you don't find joy and laughter in the things that they say and do, then it's you gotta look for a different level.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you need to apply to the high school.
There you go. Is there any kryptonite there on the other side of that coin then, Kim Campbell? Anything that challenges you, like any kryptonite that's just like, oh, that's gravel in my craw?
Um, things roll off my back pretty easily, but and I've seen since the pandemic, the parents were wackadoodle after the pandemic. Everybody
Mm.
was. But I'm starting to see parents kind of come around a little bit. Like I even had a parent the other day when I told her about the consequence, she said, "That's not enough." I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
you can add some more at home, whatever." But I don't know. I think my kryptonite is just, I don't know. I'm getting old, and
Okay.
and it's harder at times to just constantly be up. And
Mhm.
I'm a positive person,
Yeah.
always am, and so I try to do that. I try to seek out my colleagues that have a great sense of humor, but the work is hard. The work is challenging. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
don't
I
So
know.
mean,
it,
there's,
so
and there's,
what I heard Kim say, and Drew, you're in it day in and day out too, because there's no question it's hard, right? And
that's
whether
true.
we're older or younger in it, you're finding your energy through your colleagues.
Hmm. Yeah.
So if our listeners are feeling burnt out, or they're feeling like I just can't do it today, find a colleague,
Yeah.
find a sense of humor.
Yeah, one of the things I say a lot of times is, so especially if there's new teachers listening right now, is find your tribe, but choose wisely, because the teachers you choose to hang with will be the teacher you will become.
That's
And I
true.
had some great role models when I was first starting out. And so find your people.
Yep. Find your people. Yeah. And like you said, it's as you get the more seasoned into the work, sometimes it takes a little longer to recover, a little bit more difficult on
Yeah.
those hard days to recover. But that's just like playing basketball. I'm sure it feels different to play basketball now. The recovery is probably a lot more than what it used to be. But if you got a good team and a good coach, it can help with that recovery process. So it goes back to the schoolwork as well. Goodness gracious.
Oh
Well,
my God.
hey,
Listen,
thank. Yeah.
I was just going to say, we have a staff versus student basketball game, and
Ooh.
I can't even do it anymore. It's like I'm supposed to go over here, but that's not happening.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
All
have a
right.
student versus staff dodgeball. That's about as coordinated as we get. Well, listen, Kim Campbell, thank you for sharing your amazing thoughts and inspirational words with all of us here on the Fearless Schools podcast. Our audience was looking for sunshine on a cloudy day, and you not only brought them that, you brought them warm buckets filled with blue skies of hope and opportunity. It's true. So, hey, Fearless Schools listeners, you know what you did. You took time out of your listening lives to check out another Fearless Schools podcast brought to you by Creative Leadership Solutions, and you should be proud of yourself. Pat yourself on the back and go to www.creativeleadership.net and then subscribe to and share this podcast. Go to our YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. We're on the Instagram now, and share it with anybody you know, friends, frenemies, foes, local postal carriers, pet shop owners, whoever, whenever you want to, right? It's Dr. Drew Tomlin, host of your Fearless Go Outback. Go to Outback, get yourself a bloomin' onion and some broccoli, and get yourself set while you listen to the podcast. Listen, we're wishing you well and saying stay fearless on the bright road ahead. Thanks a lot, Kim.
Thank you.